Hi, I'm Adrian Tan, and this is my podcast where I deep dive into matters surrounding HR tech and the future of work. I was a former HR serial entrepreneur and write extensively about the future of work on my blog. You may know me better through the Singapore HR Tech Market Map that I created in 2017. In this podcast, I speak with the people who are enabling the future of work. From mindfulness coach to employee engagement platform, they are all helping companies to better navigate rising work and business demands. I'm hoping that sharing in this podcast will help you better prepare yourself and your business for what the future of work may bring. Many managers remain skeptical about distributed workforce. I think it stems from traditional management belief that if you're not looking over your employees' shoulders, they will Skype. Unfortunately, this belief is prevalent with many people managers treating their office like a factory floor. Addressing this and helping businesses better understand how and what people do at work, my guest today started FlowTrack to help companies get the data on the where and how employees are spending their time. Having designed and built enterprise products in IBM and NTT Data, Chandra Sivasubramaniam and the team launched FlowTrack to address India and Southeast Asian markets' need to drive organizational effectiveness and employee productivity. Hi Chandra, thank you for coming onto the show.
Hello, Adrian. Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to be present in your podcast today.
Where does this podcast find you?
I'm based out of Melbourne, Australia.
Are you there since the COVID situation, or is that just one of the base that you have?
So I'm here for the past 10 years, and my team is, kind of spread across locations. And I would say I am stuck in Melbourne for more than a year now. And this first time, I'm not traveling anywhere for more than 15 months.
Which, well, at least to me, doesn't sound like a bad situation. Melbourne happens to be, if I'm not wrong, I think the number two best livable cities in the world, according to some survey.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a country that I always wanted to go to, but I'm digressing. So to set the context, could you help the audience understand more about yourself and the company that you are working on right now, and what motivated you to jump into it?
Sure. Myself, founder and CEO of FlowTrack. We started FlowTrack after pandemic really kickstarted last year. When we were working with some of our customers, we were actually chatting with them about the pain points they were having in managing the distributed workforce. And the initial discussion, really made us to start FlowTrack, right? So businesses of, 100 plus employees, when they had not embraced the work from home before, they were all of a sudden put into this situation, and they were not able to bring transparency in the workforce, where they were not able to track their activities, and any sort of unavailability due to logistical issues like internet connectivity or power shutdown and all that is very common in emerging countries, and especially India, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, and all. And people were not able to trust whether this is really a fact or not. So our idea was to really help them to bring in the transparency, so that they are effectively managing them and not really micromanaging the people. Right? So that's a real driver for us to start FlowTrack after last pandemic. And when we
And what's your background before FlowTrack?
So before FlowTrack, we were working in HR tech space for quite some time. I started my career with IBM in 2001, and I've been there for almost 14 years as an enterprise solution architect, helping IBM to build enterprise products, and worked across multiple locations. I was part of an European project for 8 years in the beginning, and then moved to US for 4 years, and then I moved on to Australia for a few years, and that's my technical background. And then when I left IBM, I started my work in a consulting firm in Australia called Octon Consulting, which is part of NTT Data. And in 2017, when blockchain, machine learning, AI, things were kind of picking up, and I was so fascinated about doing something there. That's when we started helping startups to build products. So we were actually kind of specializing in product engineering, and we happened to be in HR tech space. And when pandemic kickstarted, we just got into the flow track development, and yeah, and that's how we started the journey with flow track.
Was it nerve-wracking for you to consider starting a brand new business when COVID first started? I mean, it seems to be like the worst possible timing to be starting a business, a high risk venture.
Exactly. You're right. Absolutely right. But when we were actually starting to see what can be done to help customer, only thing we had in mind was if at all we are doing something in this space, we should be able to get the beta version in the shortest time possible. And we did exactly the same thing. We could actually get the beta version in 6 weeks time and got it live in Microsoft Store, right? So that was our first release. So that actually brought us a lot of confidence. So if you're able to get this basic version in 6 weeks time, I think we should be able to do more, right? And because of the pandemic and distributed workforce, and businesses worried about the transparency of the workforces, we thought like that's an opportunity as well, right? So timing wasn't good for a business, but for this particular use case, we thought that's an opportunity. And also that opportunity proved to be right, and then we had great traction in the beginning, and a lot of businesses onboarded and they asked for more. And we are actually there are a few things which only FlowTrack offers, such as autonomous monitoring. There are businesses where they wanted to empower employees and not really police the employees activities throughout the day, right? So that's something we added it because customer asked for it. And we were very closely working with customers from the beginning, and iterated the product to fit the market requirement and scale ourselves into multiple geographies as well, right?
And the commencement of this company started around January 2020, which was probably a month, in fact, a month before the COVID situation really hit. So
Right.
I must say you definitely have foresight in in what is going to happen. But still on the pandemic thing, did it occur to you back in January 2020 that the situation is going to last so long?
When we started, we didn't really think of this as a separate product, and so we were adding this product as a very small feature or a module to our HR tech platform. And after seeing the traction and also seeing what's going on, and hearing the news that okay, the mutation and the way it is changing and the way people are getting comfortable with working from home these days, and unions are demanding, especially in Australia, they were demanding to have at least part of the time working from home, like at least 3 days in a week. You should allow people to work from home. We saw that okay, there is a huge opportunity because it's not going to be the same as what you have seen pre-pandemic. So future of work is going to be definitely different, and this is more decentralized and distributed. And we ran a pilot for a longer period, and now we are actually affirming whatever we thought that this is going to be the case. And now we are now the data is proving that, right? So initially we didn't have much data to prove that we are going to be right, but we believed that this model is going to this model is going to be embraced by everybody across the globe, because there are a lot of benefits to both ways. So as an employer, you are saving on the infrastructure, you're saving on other costs if you're able to enable a hybrid working structure wherein you don't need to have so much of real estate in central business district paying premium for all these office buildings. And at the same time, you're enabling people to have flexibility, so they are saving time on travel, they are saving time on everything else. Road congestion is reducing, less pollution in the environment, and you're giving back some of their time for employees to either to enjoy with family, right? And also you're providing a flexibility, right? And it's not that you need to be really 9 to 5. You let people to start early, then take a break for a couple of hours, then a few hours of during the day, and then take a break in the evening when and you have a family and you have kids, and then work a couple of hours in the evening. So you are able to provide that kind of a flexibility. Now everybody is talking about an employee value proposition, so this flexibility became a value proposition to the employer, right? So though we didn't have data to say okay, this is going to be working for us, FlowTrack is going to be really having a huge demand, but we just we're trying to solve the problem at that point in time, and we're anticipating that this is what is going to happen, and that is really happening now.
So FlowTrack basically has four key features: productivity monitoring, employee insights, data loss prevention, and asset optimization. So maybe I just focus on the first two: productivity monitoring and employee insights. And based on what I've learned from the material you shared, so essentially it's helping companies to have a better understanding of the time spent by their employees, especially in a decentralized or remote environment. On the employee insights, I'm interested to find out more on that because I would believe it ties into the productivity monitoring bit. And how different would it be in compared to many other employee engagement recognition tool out in the market?
Sure. So the tracking what we do with FlowTrack is, every second, you're getting monitored, right? So you can consider this from two different way, right? One, maybe you are intrusive, you are tracking me what I am doing, and other way to perceive this is, okay, I am doing the right thing and everything that I do is getting tracked, right? So if you look at the latter part of it, when you consider the engagement tools or performance management tools, it's always result focused. So you work on a project for a month or for quarter, and then you are recognized for the outcome you generated out of that, after that 1 month or 3 months, right? With the monitoring tool, with FlowTrack especially, you are provided with insights on a real time, where as a manager or a business owner, I can take decisions proactively. So now I see that there are set of people who's really performing well consistently, and I'm seeing the data every day, right? And I'm also seeing who's actually highly efficient people, right? I can see that on a real-time dashboard. Now I don't need to wait for that month to show the result. I'm seeing the effort going in there. I can recognize them then and there. I can provide them a lunch voucher. I can provide them a movie ticket. Whatever I wanted to reward them, I can do that on a real time. That is a huge impact on motivation. You work for a quarter and then you are recognized is too late. Now we help the businesses and managers to proactively recognize people, right? So that's one aspect. Second important aspect is the disengagement. That's really a huge problem. It's not that because of the pandemic or because people are sitting remotely or in a distributed setup. Disengagement is a huge issue. Doesn't matter where you are. If you are not enabling the new joinees to connect with people, right, or you are not able to identify that there are some concerns for the new joinees or for employees who are there in the organization, by the time you identify, you may be identifying when they are resigning, or you may be identifying when they are not delivering it. That's too late, right? So you hire somebody and get them onboarded, and then you are not understanding what's going on, and then there is a job dissatisfaction, and then they either leave the organization or they don't give what you're expecting them to give, right? So with FlowTrack, you would be able to understand the disengagement level of employees on a real time again. And whenever you see that, you can talk to them, support them with the training, support them with the mentorship, and enable them to deliver the best. So it helps on both, rewarding and recognizing people, so that you are encouraging people who's performing well, and they are feeling that they are recognized, and they will be highly motivated, right? And they'll be supportive of every action that you do. They will be supportive of your vision of the business, right? And then at the same time, you're also helping the people who are disengaged, to remove the blockers and supporting them with training, so that they are actually delivering. So overall, if you see, as an individual, they are going to stay with you, feel happy about the job, and as a business, you are getting benefited with the right outcome.
Stand and see from that angle. And I think one merit behind this is really to help many, well, I would say old-fashioned people managers in helping them manage people differently. Because from what I'm seeing, a lot of people managers tend to really manage their people in a factory-like setting. So focusing very much on the time spent, what time you come in, what time you leave office, how many hours of do you go for lunch, how many toilet breaks do you go to, which does not really play a material impact, especially in a knowledge-driven company. And of course, knowing exactly where you spend time is still significantly important, which is why personally for myself, I track my time on how much time I spend on Facebook and all that, which really give me a great insight. But on the other hand, at the employee end, I'm certain, rightly or wrongly, I do not want my employer to know about the websites that I'm browsing, how granular would all this tracking be?
Okay, so we offer solution for all segment of the businesses, right? So, for example, when you wanted to be transparent with the employees and you wanted to tell the employees that you wanted to track their time, you wanted to understand when they are checking in, when they are checking out. Yes, you can offer them a consent based tracking, where every day user has a control. Whenever they start work, they start tracking. When they wrap up the work, they stop tracking, right? And then there are enterprises where there is a compliance requirement. For example, banks or financial services business or any IT services business who's actually helping bank for IT support and all that, where they handle sensitive information, they handle customer data. So they wanted to make sure any action that your employee is doing on the system is kind of monitored, and any sort of wrong actions are proactively identified, and risk is mitigated, right? And now when you talk about the privacy, where the employees are browsing the social media sites, could be Facebook or Instagram or anything that they enjoy doing on internet. Now, as an employer, if you wanted to maintain a culture of trust, and you wanted to really help employees or empower them, then we have an option called autonomous monitoring, where this is more about an individual monitoring themselves, right? And they are not sharing all their unproductive activities, right? So I can browse Facebook maybe 3 hours a day, right? And I'm not telling my manager that I have done this, or I'm not sharing the data, right? Which URL, what chat I have done. But I am responsible here. I make sure, since I spent a few hours on social media, my overall hours are not really 8, which is what my business needs. Then I really stretch myself in the evening to cover that up. And now, as a manager or a business owner, you see that my employee has done the work, but I don't care what time he has done. Maybe he spent some time on social media, which is something I'm not seeing what he has done, but I see the productive activities related to my business is performed over a period of like morning 6 till evening 9, whatever the time he chose to do, but he has delivered that in 8 hours of productive time. That's what I want, right? So you have that option as well. So it's all about what you really wanted to accomplish here. What sort of organization culture you have, what sort of the trust factor you have in the organization, whether it's a high growth business, it's highly skilled workforce, where you do not want to really police them, you really wanted to empower them and help them to increase their productivity by themselves, not really you telling them that they have to work so and so hours, right? So so we wanted to really take care of that concern of the employees privacy, so we introduced autonomous monitoring in FlowTrack. And wherever enterprises wanted to really mitigate the data breach risk or data loss prevention, all that, we have the stealth mode monitoring. And wherever they wanted to be transparent and get the consent from users on track, we have a consent based application as well.
So key thing here I can identify is, of course, you have to be transparent with your employees. Don't install this, behind their back and then, not letting them know what is going on. And also importantly, it is to spot the right behaviors rather than trying to penalize the ones that you may frown upon. But at the end of the day, it is still really very much about driving the right outcome. As you shared earlier on, as long as there are good correlations between the time spent as well as the outcome that they're expected to produce, it really does not matter, if they were to spend perhaps some time here and there on Netflix or on social media. Is
Yeah.
that where where what I'm detecting here?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about the way companies can perhaps use this data to help train other employees to be more productive? Because I would imagine, given the vast amount of data, perhaps maybe I'll just use a sales department, because sales is always easier to quantify. You obviously would have your A players, your B players, your C player. With the data that you're monitoring, would it be possible for the management to have a better understanding of what make A player, and use that knowledge to train the B and the C?
Yes. See, we do this in two aspects, right? So, one, we provide as part of the insights, where you can understand how an individual is consistently performing. right? So there are multiple level of engagement you measure, right? So one is on the hardware level where you track how engaged they are on the keyboard and mouse, and then you track their activities on the applications and websites and all that. Now, when you are providing that insights, I can really identify who's in my team, who's the A player and who's really the B player, right? And I can also see how my team is doing overall, because you may not be having all shining stars in the team. You will have a mix of people. Some may be average, some may be high performers. So you always deal with the team having this mixed skill level and performance. So now you obviously need to recognize the right people, right? So now managers are enabled to take decisions on appraisals and all that based on data, not on perception, right? And it used to be the case, a lot of times you get to recognize somebody based on perception, how they talk to you, how they interact with team, but it's not really on the solid outcome that they are generating, right? So that's one aspect. And the another one is about the employee themselves, right? So they can look at the champions of in the team, right? So every day you get to see the daily insights, and there you see, okay, where you stand compared to your peers, and within my organization, who's the top 5 people, right? So if I am actually sending a communication internally saying, okay, these are all the people really high performers, and when I see that and I'm not in that list, I'm actually having a push to do more, to change my behavior, be focused and deliver the best, so that one day I'll be there in that the top 5 leaderboard, right? So you are actually driven through this indirect campaign as well as an individual.
That's really a fantastic idea to help companies better up their productivity in a very meaningful way, because a lot of time we have always relied on gut feel, what's the right thing to do. But of course, with quantifiable data, the way you approach things will be very different because it's evidence based. Having
Yeah.
said that, I also want to get your thoughts on a few situations I came across in Singapore. So a friend of
Mhm.
mine, he was in. There's two stories here. So one, he is working in this telco, and under this former boss, especially when COVID first started, he and the team were expected to greet each other in a WhatsApp group every morning around 8:30. Good morning. And the
Mhm.
premise is just to ensure people wakes up on time.
Yeah.
And second of all, the meetings that they have are always done before and after lunchtime, just
Okay.
to ensure that you cannot go for long lunches. Now, that is one story. The other story was even crazier. Now, this company I actually got to know as part of my study to do an article on diversity and all that. But then I realized this company, okay, they're doing very well in terms of diversity, blah, blah, blah. But they had this thing where all their workers, who of course has to work remotely right now,
Mhm.
have to turn on their camera on Zoom
Wow.
from 9 to 6. And the argument, or rather the rationale, is, oh, people can feel connected when they are working. What's
Okay.
your take on that?
That's, I think that's a bit too much, I would say, because this is too intrusive. And also another thing, some of the scenarios you explained. So that's more of, building a
and
team that
they
is without
are
any trust, right? So you don't have any trusted team members there, and you don't see that they are actually doing what you are expecting them to do, because you are always suspicious. I think this is not going to create a great ambience for high performing team, right? So that's what we always connect with our prospects, our customers. This is what we tell them, like, see, these tools, though we say it's monitoring, it's not really for you to polish, right? This is to bring you confidence. So when you have confidence on your people, or when that whatever they are doing during the business hours, you have the control of their activities, then you don't really suspect on anything, right? You let them do, you provide flexibility. You don't ask them to be stay on Zoom call for the whole day, or you don't ask them to cut short their lunch, because you have the data, the productivity, and you let them deliver the outcome. Doesn't matter what time they work or what place they are working from. So this is really based on the managerial style, right? So if we are able to provide the right tools for such managers, I think we can build a culture of motivation and support, rather than micromanagement and untrusted environment, right? And also, as a team, they thrive, and as a manager, you can focus on your core stuff rather than just policing people. And as an organization, you'll be able to retain the right people, and as an organization, you'll be able to do great stuff and innovate, because the managers are really the strong pillars of every organization. If you don't have the right managers, you are actually giving setting a wrong perception about the organization to the entire team, right? So the managers are the kind of representative of the organization culture to the entire team, whom they are managing. So yeah, so I think it's all about having the right tool and bringing the transparency to the managers so that they are actually able to trust people, and then not really getting too intrusive and very interested, creating very interested environment.
Managers are not there to just police people. And I remember reading a book called Own Your Culture by one of my guests, Brett Putter, in which one of the stories about entrepreneur, when he first started, he was an extreme micromanager. But I realized micromanagement does not scale. You reach a stage where you can only micromanage so many people, which is why he has to do it in a very different manner. And he started to focus on culture, building up the right core values and ensuring people practice and live by those core values so he doesn't have to micromanage. And that allowed him to scale. So for managers listening out there, if you're still sitting on the fence, micromanagement does not scale and policing does not scale as well. If your core duty is really trying to grow the business. And to move on from this conversation, so what's next for FlowTrack? What other plans you have in mind? What's on the roadmap over the rest of this year?
So right now, our focus is to really scale. So we iterated the product and covered a lot of relevant use cases in the platform. Now we are working on to scale our platform beyond a certain geography, and expanding our partnership deep into Southeast Asia, where we are exploring partnership in Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Singapore as well. And we wanted to really get closer to this HR tech platforms, and wanted to see the integration opportunities and integrate FlowTrack into as many platforms as possible, so that every business is able to create a performance culture based on data, right? So not just the KRA, not just the numbers, or not just the outcome, but you see the effort and recognize the people for the effort as well, right? So that's our goal going forward.
Well, for Singapore, especially if you want to reach out to all these partners, there's the HR Tech Market Map. You can easily make reference to that. I believe you guys are on it as well. So just reach out to those companies, and I'm sure they'll be happy to have a chat with you to learn more. So lastly, for companies or people who are interested to find out more about FlowTrack, where should they go to?
They can visit flowtrack.ai. That's our portal for all the use cases and solutions we have presented. We have some success stories presented there. And I am just a message away in LinkedIn. I am pretty active there in LinkedIn, so people can directly connect with me in LinkedIn as well.
Thank you so much. And Chandra actually has 3 months free usage for the platform for up to 100 users for any interested party from my audience. So I will put the information in the show notes as well as to their website as well. So once again, thank you so much for your time today, Chandra. Having a great time speaking with you, and I wish you all the success and with your rest of the journey in FlowTrack.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you so much for this opportunity and your time as well today.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. You can refer to the show notes for links to more information about our guests and their businesses. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would be helpful to give a review on iTunes or follow me on Spotify. If you're using Overcast, please hit the star button under the episode. That will help get this episode and podcast out to more people who may find it useful. I'll see you in the next episode of The Adrian Tan Show.